Does the rise of the political right across the world mean bad economics? And what is the impact going to be on the economies across the world? We have a very interesting guest with us, Manuel Cavazos Lerma, who's a senator from Mexico. And let's have a chat with him on what it means in the post-Trump era. Mr. Lerma, especially seeing how the relations between the US and the Mexico have been at an all-time low after the ascension of Donald Trump. What is the impact that you're seeing virtually there on the ground as far as the relationship between the two countries are concerned, and also on your own economy?
Well, first of all, let me say that the relation between USA and Mexico is very, very strong since in 1994 when NAFTA starts. Right. So the trade between both countries before NAFTA was around $80 billion. Now is $600 billion. And 6 million of American citizens depend on NAFTA. But during the campaign, Mr. Trump has a very, very aggressive speech against Mexico and against NAFTA. But one thing is the candidate and another thing is the president. Right. And a president in the United States cannot be a dictator, right, because they have check and balance, right, democratic system. So you have to see the check and balance. But also, as Sun Tzu said, the great strategic people, first of all, you need to know your adversary. And we tried to know Mr. Trump. Fortunately, he wrote several books. One of them is The Art of the Deal, and it was written in 1989. And he said, what I do first is to provoke my adversary. I need to even insult and humiliate them to see their reaction. If they are weak, I splash them. If they are strong, I negotiate. Right. So he talks and talks and talks about the wall, about the migrants, about the financial remittances from Mexicans in the USA to Mexican families, about putting a tax on our exports to the USA, in national security and all kinds of topics, and we listen. But we don't get into his game. Right. He provokes, we listen.
But rhetoric aside, do you think that probably he has a chance to, or he may end up damaging the relationship, the strong relationship that both countries have shared over the years?
That's the next step.
Right.
Since we didn't look weak, now he's negotiating. And he talks about the wall. But the wall is already made. Reagan started the wall in 1986, and it was useless. Because what's the purpose of the wall? To stop people, to stop trade? Well, people and trade goes by land, by sky, by the sea. So if you want to stop that, and that is your goal, you need to make a wall on the land, a wall on the ocean, and a wall on the sky. Right. And that's impossible.
Right. But even then, do you concede that probably there are areas to work, where there can be a middle ground, and even the concerns that probably the Donald Trump is raising on immigration and various illegal immigration issues. Do you think there is a middle ground for both the countries to work on?
Well, actually, we are working on. Now we receive the Secretary of Commerce to talk about NAFTA, to the Secretary of National Security to talk about migrants and to talk about the traffic of weapons, because the United States are sending weapons to the Mexican cartels, and to talk about security issues and to talk about all the issues. Wilbur Ross, the Secretary of Commerce, went to Mexico and said, we want to renegotiate NAFTA.
Right.
We will renegotiate, but they forget that NAFTA was already renegotiated in TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Right. Why? Because we updated NAFTA, because Canada was there, the United States was there, Mexico was there. So we put topics that were not on the table before, like electronic trade, and now we open the energy sector. In 1994, the energy sector was not on the table. So all of these things were taken into account. But Wilbur Ross said, we need first a stable Mexico. We need a stable peso, because after the speeches of Trump, the day they announced his electoral victory, peso went down dramatically. Right. But Wilbur Ross made this statement that we need a stable peso, and in one day it raised 12%. So some uncertainty factors are taking its path. And second premise of renegotiation, we need a Mexico with stable economy. We need macroeconomic stability. And third, we need to review rules of origin. Right. And fourth, we need a prosperous Mexico so that you don't send so many migrants to the USA, because if we have a prosperous Mexico, there will not many migrants to the USA. And all these premises give us the opportunity to be right. optimistic. Right. And however, people say, why aren't you renegotiating now? Right. Because in the United States, they have an act, a law, that says that the executive has to ask permission right. to the Congress, and right. Congress will take 90 days right. to give the permission. Right. If you don't have this permission, you cannot renegotiate. Right. So you see the check and balances operating. And when he tried to make some laws about migrants, like against Islamic migrants, the judiciary power said, no, right. it's against Constitution. Right. So what the executive said, the executive orders have to be passed to these check and balances, the wall. Right. They say we need $22,000 million to make the wall. The Congress said, yeah. we don't have that money. Right. He said, well, the Mexicans will pay for it. Yeah. And
will you pay for it?
No, Mexico says we will not pay a single peso. Right. Because it's going to be in their
side of the wall, yeah.
And the territory, yeah. not in ours. Yeah. And second, most of these limit area, the border areas, are under dispute because they took more land than they should have taken. And if you build the wall, a good part of the wall will be built in Mexican land, right. because the limits are not very well traced. Right. So we are optimistic about the relation, because he has to take into account the importance of NAFTA for the USA. What are you going to do with 600 billion of trade? What will you do with 6 million of people whole direct employment that depends on NAFTA.
Right.
So one thing is what the candidates say, and another thing is what the president says, and another different thing is what the system thinks. And that means to take into account all the check and balances, executive power, legislative power, judicial power, and the factic powers like the big producers, the big transnationals that were already set down in NAFTA.
Right.
And the same will be sitting down in TPP.
Right. On that note, coming back to the central question again, what I asked in the beginning. So does the rise of the political right, does it mean bad economics? Because we have seen in many countries where it does not necessarily mean that the rise of the right means bad economics. In fact, it means good economics in certain countries.
Well, there is a very important economic writer, Karl Marx, that said, if you have any problem, political, social, cultural, cherchez l'économie, look for the economy. That means you cannot be a politician if you don't know economics.
Right.
Since I was a kid, I wanted to be a politician. So I study economics.
Right.
My career is economics. I have a master's degree in economics in the London School of Economics because I wanted to be a politician, and it's a matter of responsibility. If you want to be a politician, you need to know economics. And in Mexico, there are many, many economists that are politicians. The Secretary of Foreign Relations is economist. The Secretary of the Treasury is economist. The Secretary of Commerce is economist. And we have many economists in the executive power, many economists in the Deputy House and the Senate House, and we have even economics in the Supreme Court.
Right. Mr. Lerma, pleasure talking to you.